This episode of the Original Ballers podcast is brought to you by Bay Juice, which is 100% Korean pear juice. We were lucky enough to be sent a whole crate of these ones. There it is. Now, Bay Juice is 100% Korean pear juice, and it is a natural hangover remedy. So it's probably great for those nights where one drink turns into a cheeky 10. The way this works is have one of these before you start drinking, and then have another one in the morning, and let us know how you feel. We tried this out. Our team had a few drinks during the week via Zoom, keeping to our stage 4 restrictions in Victoria. And our findings were quite awesome. I'm not going to give too much away. But for more information, head to Bay Juice, their website, which is www.bayjuiceoz.com.au, or head to their Instagram, which is bayjuiceoz, for more information. That's 100% Korean pear juice, and it's pretty awesome. Steph, welcome to the OB podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So it's crazy time at the moment, and I know we will be talking about Keep It Cleaner, and I actually think it's a great chance to talk about Keep It Cleaner because it's your project obviously, but in a time now where physical exercise is I'd say quite difficult in terms of as an activity for motivation and even nutrition. I think it's a fantastic time to be talking about. But what I might start with is, where did the idea for Keep It Cleaner begin?
So Keep It Cleaner for us, so it's founded by myself and my best mate, Laura Henshaw. And for us, we were both on social media. We both had a run in the modeling industry, both been through similar kind of paths with our own relationships with physical exercise and nutrition. And I think what we were both very sick of seeing were the fad diets and the strict kind of things that were being pushed onto people, particularly young women, over social media, and all these expectations and transformations and quick fixes and stuff. We were sick and tired of looking at it. And we'd fallen for them ourselves and had gone through pretty bad things by doing so. So we just wanted to kind of cut through that and bring out something that was a little bit more realistic and start a community, but to be honest, we had no idea it was going to grow into the community that it is. But we just kind of wanted to be like older sisters for anyone that kind of needed to maybe have someone who was not too much older than them. So someone that they still relate to, but maybe had been through things that they were either going through or about to go through, and kind of help them either through it or avoid that time. Because I think it's unbelievably common for both men and women to fall into patterns of being in a restrictive or unhealthy relationship when it comes to exercise and stuff. And it's because of society's pressure of making people think that, the way you look or, the way you look directly correlates with our health, and that's the most important thing, when it's absolutely not the case. So I think that was the whole thing that really kind of put a fire in our bellies to start something like Keep It Cleaner.
Yeah, sure. And, I hear you because, look, I've spoken about this on the podcast before, but, my formative years, I weighed 109 kilos, and my height, I'm about 5'9". So I was, extremely overweight. But, I think it was a scenario where I lost 38 kilos in the end. And that experience of dieting and nutrition, it's such a daunting prospect to, I'd say, to just everyday people that don't know where to turn. And exercise can be, it's fantastic, but I think it needs to be done under the right circumstances and for the right reasons. You can fall into those unhealthy situations that I guess you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we just encourage people, which is why we try and have such a variety on the app, but we just encourage people to find what works for them and what makes them feel good. For some people that's just walking daily. For some people it's yoga. For some people it's running. And, some people like to work out twice a week, others 7 times a week. Everyone's very different, and there's not one size fits all when it comes to a fitness program. So, I mean, for us, it was just about putting something out there that had enough in there that was going to suit anyone.
Yeah, for sure. And there seems to be quite a few options. Like I saw boxing, there's yoga, and HIIT training. Like, I think right now, given that everyone is, stuck in the house, a scenario where you have so many options without needing a gym is fantastic. But how have you been going about exercise?
For me personally, I've always kind of worked out at home. I used to have a gym membership when gyms were still open, but I rarely used it. I'm much more of a, at home kind of gal. That's why I've got Keep It Cleaner. So it wasn't a massive switch for me going into ISO for training. But I'm like anyone else, I've gone through waves of being, incredibly motivated during this time because I've got more time on my hands and, there's not really much else to do other than work and work out. So I got really motivated on certain days, and then other days I just want to sleep in and do absolutely nothing. So I think for me, it's just about, I've been trying to listen to my body, but I do know personally, I work a lot better. I'm a lot more energized. I'm a lot nicer to be around when I have moved my body. So I try and do it in some way, even if it's a 1 kilometer walk around the block with my dog, even if that's all I do, I've moved my body and I feel like I've accomplished that. And, so I've been trying to do that, but I'd say I've been doing maybe 2 HIIT workouts a week, a walk every day. That's been like my savior. I have to get out of the house. So definitely walking every day. And then it just sucks now with the stage 4 restrictions. It's like I was kind of going for a short walk in the morning and then a short walk in the afternoon because otherwise I'm just on my laptop all day. And now you can only pick one.
No, I feel your pain. And talking a matter of dogs, I think I read somewhere. So you have a cavoodle, right? And,
I do.
And his name is Ari?
His name is Ari.
Yeah, so I actually have a cavoodle and his name is Ari also. So I found that.
What?
Yeah, I know. Boom.
I've never met another person that had a dog called Ari.
Yeah, yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Did you call it after Entourage as well?
Yeah, we did. Hang on, you did not do the same thing.
Yeah, we did because my husband Josh, he's obsessed with Entourage. Well, he really was. And we were throwing around names when we first got Ari, and we couldn't decide on anything. I think we were even going to go with Turtle at one point. Yeah. And then he was just like, "Wait, Ari, it's my favorite character," and was like, "And he's gold. He's a gold dog, so Ari Gold Dog." Yeah.
That's where we got it. So I guess obviously walking and all that's great, but in terms of nutrition, I find now that we're in winter as Melburnians and Victorians that and we are stuck at home in these stage 4 restrictions, how have you stayed motivated to keep nutrition well and balanced? Has there been a method to madness, or is it just something that is exactly what you do week in, week out?
I suppose my method is reminding myself of how good I feel when I am on that kind of balanced train. And I hate the word balance, but it really is a kind of balance. That's how I eat. I've got a bit of a 70-30 diet where 70% of the time I eat pretty nutritious and clean, and then the other 30% of the time I eat what I want. Before we started this podcast, I had a row of chocolate and it was probably the second row already for today, and I know I'm probably going to go back there after dinner, and some days are like that, and some days I can just have one piece and I'm fine. And I think for me, because I've been through my own battle in the past of binge eating, and I've spoken about it a lot, but overeating and being in the moment and knowing that it was not what I wanted to be doing, and then going through this horrible relationship of guilt and just kind of going back and forth with that. Because I've been through that, I think now I have a whole different perspective on nutrition. And for me, it's I'm not restrictive. I'm not too strict on myself. I allow myself to have the foods that I love, like cheese and chocolate and hot chips and all that sort of stuff. But I know how good I feel as well when the majority of the time I'm eating pretty clean and nutritious foods, because it, obviously fuels you with energy. There's more to it than just, staying in shape and everything like that. That's just a byproduct of eating well. It's absolutely, critical when it comes to your energy and, just how you feel in the day. So I stay pretty nutritious, and I just kind of remind myself that I'm always going to feel better that way. And then on the days that I don't, on the days that I kind of just whatever, I'm just eating whatever I want. I'm a lot more relaxed with it. And I think my body is actually thanking me for that, because when I used to be super strict with it, or, wasn't necessarily as nice to it, it wasn't as nice to me either.
Yeah,
So.
of course. And I just think it's so important now that through my journey from weight loss and physical activity, I understood once I kind of came out the other side and had lost all the weight, just how important the link between physical exercise is to mental health. But, at the same token, like exactly what you said, if you're eating clean and you're eating cleaner, it's a situation where you'll find you just start to feel good. Maybe not straight away, because like I have this seriously toxic relationship with coffee where I can smash 5 coffees a day.
Wow.
Yeah. And then there was a moment in time, which was very brief, but I did stop consuming so many cups of coffee, and I actually found I had more energy, and I didn't have as many dips, so to speak. But yeah, I think it's so important that you do have guidance, and it becomes a staple as a lifestyle choice, something that isn't too forced.
Oh, absolutely. I think if anything feels too forced or too strict, it's likely that it won't last you.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what we've tried to always do with the program when it comes to either the exercise side of it or the food. Yeah. It's like the nutritious and healthy food and recipes we have on the program and the meal plan, it's delicious and filling and, family friendly, like everyone loves it. It's not, super strict to the point where it doesn't even taste good and you're likely to never cook it again. Because we're all about kind of teaching our community little things that they can implement into their life to kind of continue that healthy living thing for the rest of their lives. It's not just an 8-week thing that you just do quickly and then you get whatever result you're after and you finish. It's something that, you get used to feeling good from moving your body and eating well, and you just want to keep doing it.
Yeah, for sure. And look, it's a great opportunity for everyone, and I'm sure everyone will check it out once they've listened to the podcast, and I'm sure they already are. But from a scenario as well, let's wind back the clock. So we had a chat just briefly before that you obviously grew up in the suburb of Bulleen/Templestowe, and you went to Balwyn High. So from your formative years, obviously, I think from what I understand, you were thrown into a system at quite a young age, where started modelling quite young. I read that you had your first agency deal was at 19.
Yeah, so I actually signed with Chatties when I just turned 18.
Okay.
Which actually isn't young for models and modelling. It's not old either. It's kind of the norm in Australia, I suppose.
No way.
They're encouraged to finish school, but there is a lot of people who start modelling before that. And I did a few years of modelling when I was about 7 years old. I did it for a couple of years, and I just did the random catalogue here and there. And just because my parents knew how much I was obsessed with being in front of the camera and that whole lifestyle, I was really into drama, and I just thought I was going to grow up either singing, acting, dancing, or modeling, and I sucked at the other 3, so I ended up modeling. I just had all this confidence as a kid. I don't know. Yeah. So then I took a break during my, I suppose I call them my awkward years, when my head was a little too big for my body and I had braces and all this, the fun teenage stuff, and focused on school. But it was always in the back of my mind. Like, it was just something, it was a passion that just kept growing and growing in me. And I just really, really wanted to give it a go. So when it came time to, VCE, trying to figure out what you wanted to do, what path you wanted to go down, I had a few different interests outside of the idea of modeling. Like, I was really into photography. I loved animals, but and even PE, like I was so into my health and fitness, and they were my favorite subjects. So I thought, maybe a PE teacher. I do love kids or something like that. But at the end, it always came back to, but I really want to give modeling a go. So after speaking to my parents, they said, as long as you've got, another job on the outside, and we're happy for you to have a gap year and like
Sure.
figure out what you want to do. Because they knew, you know, from my studies in school, if there was a subject I wasn't interested in, my brain just literally switched off. Like it was like, it just
100%.
was like, nope, not interested, it's
Yeah.
going. And so I suppose they didn't want to pressure me into starting a uni degree or a course or a TAFE or anything like that. But to be honest, I didn't really have a score good enough to go past anything than a TAFE, and I was happy with that. You know, they didn't want to pressure me into doing that if they knew that I wasn't fully invested and that I was likely to drop out. So yeah, I took my gap year. I signed with Chatties straight away. I've been with them ever since. And about 3 months into it, I was super lucky. Like, this is not kind of heard of in the modeling industry for a new model, but I picked up on a few regular clients. Like, I think it was Target. I think it was like Roxy. There's a few others, but they were booking me every single week for online modeling work. And it became so regular that I had to drop my other job, and I just fell in love with it. I fell in love with the whole industry. And I just knew it was something that I wanted to keep writing for longer. So that gap year turned into, well, more than a gap year.
Yeah, more than a gap year. But, you know, that's not uncommon, and, you know, well done, because I think taking a gap year obviously is a lot more common now, but the scenario of going out, understanding what it is you want to do, and then kind of chasing that dream or your goals is something that's always kind of like, you know, my parents were always like, I wanted to be a writer, and it was a scenario where, cool, you can write, but you're getting another job because writing's not going to pay your bills. So it's a scenario where you're just multitasking like this mad person. But I guess being in the spotlight like you have, as a business person, as a model, like weaving in all these scenarios, I'm sure there have been, but have there been instances where you've struggled with being so in the spotlight the whole time?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so funny because I think for so long I keep falling into this like denial thing where I'm like, that's not me. But for sure, I've gone through very different waves of negative cycles, I suppose, with social media and having a bit of a personality, I suppose, online, because I didn't, you know, I was online for the last 8 years. So since I was 18, I've been on social media, and I've done a lot of growing over those years, you know, like between 18 and 26, like most people in their life, you grow into, you know, your adult self, you make mistakes, and you learn from them and you discover who you are. And I know that's going to continue. I'm not saying I completely know who I am. Like people talk about, you know, your 30s and 40s, truly understanding who you are. I totally get that. But for me, there was so much growing and so much maturity and so much changed in myself. Even things that I believed in and like all that sort of stuff. Like, so I think knowing that I've been sharing my entire life and always being so open with everything, like the raw moments and letting people in on every kind of corner of my life, it was daunting at times, because there was times where I was pulled up on mistakes that I'd, you know, made in the past, or things that maybe people disagreed with, or things that they think I've done wrong. Or even, you know, when I was going through that period of not being happy in my own skin and thinking that, you know, I wasn't skinny enough for the modeling industry, for the international industry, having that extra pressure at that time on social media of looking at trolls and, you know, people who didn't know me, their kind of rude comments.
Oh, boy.
You know, I once came across this website that my name, it was like a topic, and all this website was they found like personalities or models, and they put their names down, and then all these anonymous people commented basically on the way they looked. And there was so many people writing stuff like, you know, she's too big for the industry, or she needs to lose a bit here and there, and just like all these just horrible, like completely picking on my looks. And I was
sure that's a light way of putting it too.
Oh, absolutely. And like that was when I was 10 kilos lighter than I am now, and I was in a really unhealthy state of the way I looked at my body. And so reading that just kind of fueled that negative self-talk in myself. When I thought that other people kind of thought what I was thinking, it was like, oh, well, you're right. Okay, keep going. And that was just horrible. So there's definitely been times where it's been a negative thing being, you know, kind of having this presence. But I absolutely wouldn't change anything for the world. Like it's at the same time, it's been an incredible opportunity, and I'm so grateful and fortunate to be in the position that I am. And I've learned a lot from it, and I continue to every single day. And I feel very lucky, and I know there's a big responsibility as well with having the following that I do, but I kind of love it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And look, I think that. Oh, well, I know that, with all the negative connotations that come with social media, it's morphed into a world of its own. Like, I mean, I'm a bit of a dinosaur here where, I mean, all we had when I was younger was MySpace, and we thought that was going to.
And all you got picked on back then was either who was in your top friends or what song you had on your homepage.
Yeah.
Like, that was it.
100%. And it was as simple as that. And then it just morphed into this world, obviously, that has just become its own currency, and it's literally grown into, we throw around terms like influencers and whatnot, but the truth of the matter is, billion-dollar companies like Apple, Netflix, they're all channeled into social media. Obviously, I mean, and we've even got like a scenario. I don't know if you've been watching part of the news that's not coronavirus related.
I know, it's hard to see between the gaps.
Yeah, I know, right? But there's like a whole scenario of legalities between, the Australian publishing industry and social media and Facebook and the government in the US and TikTok. Like, it's just morphed into this monster of its own. But I guess what is a great aspect of it is there are men and women that look at you and can gain inspiration from what you have done, your journey, and we'll talk about unhealthy habits and body image a little as well, because it's important that higher profile individuals are taking a step in the right direction of not losing weight because you want to look skinny. But and I'm not saying that that's not on the forefront of everyone's mind, because when I was losing weight, for sure, I was like, I need to shed the kilos because, I looked terrible, felt terrible. But there is an aspect to it where you do need to be comfortable in your own skin. And I feel as though you've taken that journey, and for people to see that in a public spot and a public place is fantastic to gain inspiration. But how important was for you? Because it's a tricky. They're tricky waters to navigate, because when is enough? Yeah,
no, totally. Thank you so much, that's really sweet. But yeah, for me, like, I think there was this moment where I decided to be really open and honest, and I did a YouTube video on binge eating, and when I posted that was like so scary. Did you? Oh my god. I haven't seen it in so long.
And I was like, I would not be able. I could think it. I don't think I could look in this camera and speak about it. So good on you. But
it's like making me tear up, really, kind of thinking about it, because at the time I definitely I was still definitely developing. I wasn't as, sure of myself as I am today. It was a few years ago now, but I definitely got to the other side of a really unhealthy kind of eating journey that I was on, and exercise. And for me, opening up to people like that, I shared like little bits and pieces here and there, but I'd never really told the full story. And I think like there was this thing going through my mind as I was posting it. Like, I started questioning, like, should I get the okay from my agency, or like, do I, tell my clients that I'm like posting this, or should I tell? Because the other thing was there was the thing about, disordered eating is that a lot of people don't actually open up to their closest friends and family about it, right? And for me, making that video and sharing it to strangers, as hard as it was actually easier than opening up to a lot of my friends and family. Like, there was a lot of my friends who kind of knew what was going on, but it was always joked about, and I don't think they ever knew kind of the depth or the seriousness of it. Like, they joke about how much I ate and, didn't know where I put it or whatever, because they obviously didn't know what I did with it afterwards. I'm not going to go into that, but they I think they were quite shocked when they watched it, because they just felt like, oh my God, I'm some of them even apologized for not being there, but it's like, hey, I hid this from you. Like, I didn't want you to know about this. So I think for me, it just kind of proved, and I had this huge weight off my shoulders once I opened up about it. Like, oh my God, okay, now I don't have to pretend, and I can actually talk to people about this. And the response that I got from, people who could relate to my story and, thanking me for being so open and thanking, me because it's helped them in any way was so unbelievably rewarding that it just made me realize how crazy common it all is and how much more it needs to be spoken about and normalized. Like, normalized not in a way that encourages it at all. Like, absolutely not. But normalized in a way where people feel open and comfortable to talk about that sort of stuff, because people need to hear it.
Talk about it's not comfortable to talk about at all. I saw your video today, and I wish I had seen it back then, because I was, like I said, I was, classified as obese for someone my age, and I used to binge eat, and the scenario where I taught myself little hacks, like I'd have to brush my teeth if I was binge eating, because that was the only thing that really took away the want to put food in my mouth. And then even then, I even tried cigarettes for a point in time where, if I was starting to, chow down on quite a few different bits and pieces, I'd have a cigarette. And when you don't have navigation like you do now, it's difficult, and you don't want to talk about it with close family members, because it's so much more confronting to talk to people that you really love and people that love you, because it's kind of like you feel like you're letting them down and you've let yourself down, which is a really weird scenario, but that's in your head, even though that's the case.
Absolutely. And it's also, you don't know if they can relate to it. So, and a lot of the time they can't exactly relate to what you're going through. So they don't really know what to say to make it any better. And of course they're always going to be there to love and support you. But you kind of work out, like for me, I had a PT who was a good friend of mine who I knew had helped, women kind of work through similar things.
Sure.
And I went to him, and he was the one that kind of kept me accountable and checked in on me. And he was the first person that I was really open and honest with. And it was weird because I say close friend, and he's closer now than he was then. I'd really only trained with him a few times, but for some reason I was like, you're the one that I'm going to be open with about this, and you're going to help me, not anyone else. And really, as soon as I started talking about it with someone else, it made it more real. And I think it was like, because definitely for a while I was in the same boat as you, and thinking of little tricks and hacks and stuff, but nothing ever really worked, because I was still in that rut, and I was still doing it for the wrong reasons, and it was just going to be a cycle that was going to go on forever until I admitted to myself that it was an issue, and found out why I was doing it. And the reason that I was personally doing it was because I had way too much stress and pressure on myself for the way I looked, and that was all I valued myself on. And I let people's comments and things get to me to a point that I had this, incredibly strict idea of dieting, that it backfired on me every single day. And then it was just a horrible cycle for like a year. So I think once you open up and talk about it with people, it's definitely something that can truly help. And that's why I thought opening up to, YouTube at the time would help others kind of realize that it was okay to talk about and open up.
Definitely. And, like I said, I wish I saw that back then, I really do. And I guess that gives credence to Keep It Cleaner too, because this is what I mean. You've gone through a journey that basically embodies Keep It Cleaner for a way that it can be that helping hand for people no matter what. Because at the end of the day, like I think both of us know, dieting isn't one size fits all, and it was often treated that way back in the day. Now, there's like a index of diets, but back then it was a lot more linear, and there wasn't as much around. And I think that Keep It Cleaner, in terms of, from what I understand, it's a great guide to navigate those waters, which is awesome.
Thank you.
What would be your favourite probably feature of Keep It Clean?
Oh, that is really hard.
I know, but if you had to nail down.
Well, my favorite part, so not feature, my favorite part of Keep It Cleaner is absolutely our community, because it is just, so now we've got about 35,000 women from all around the world in this Facebook community. And, you know, they're Kik users that have come and gone, but they're so incredible. And they're just, it's funny, we have these rules, you know, set like any Facebook community would, where, you know, we don't allow any bullying, of course, and all this sort of stuff. But I think over the years, there's only been 1 or 2 things that have been reported or that we've had to remove. Like everyone in there is just there to motivate and encourage and support one another. And it's the most beautiful community ever. You know, when it first started, it was Laura and I kind of commenting on every single post, making sure like everyone was heard and felt seen. And we still definitely check in. Like I'm on there every day. It might not be for as long. I might not be commenting on every single one anymore because there's so many.
Yeah, of course. But
they're there for one another now, and they don't necessarily need us. And that was always the thing with Keep It Cleaner. Like as much as it started with Laura and I, and you know, it was kind of about us and our training and all that sort of stuff. It's all about them. It's always been about them. It's always been about helping them. So for me, that community, as much as they say that I motivate them, they motivate me, they get me through and they support me. So that's my favorite part about Kik. And then I think my favorite feature, I'd say, would probably be our wellness hub, because I think for me over the last year or so, I've really prioritize my mental health, and it's made the world of difference to my life. So our wellness hub for me is, it's amazing. So our wellness hub has yoga, Pilates, and meditation.
That's so good. Epic. And speaking a matter of wellness, do you have like any rituals or anything that's part of like your lifestyle week in, week out in terms of wellness?
So, I mean, outside of physical exercise and nutrition, I really love to make sure I do something for me often. So that might be a bath, that might be, you know, binge watch my favorite TV show. It might be a Zoom call with my family. I'm relating this all to this current situation of isolation. But it's been the reality for so long now. And then meditation, which is something that I never thought I would be able to get into because I'm such a fidgeter, but it's the guided meditations on our app whenever I need to just kind of have a breath. You know, the other day I ran myself a bath, and before I got into my TV show, I did a meditation, and it just kind of made me reset. And even when I'm struggling to sleep, like our sleep meditations, when I play them and I've had a restless sleep, like 9 out of 10 times, I'll fall asleep before it finishes. And it's just been incredible for my mental health, and yoga too, for that matter. Yoga is actually something that, you know, I tried here and there back in the day, and I never thought I was ever going to be anything close to a yogi. But the amount that I've learnt from yoga and how, you know, you just breathe through things, and you'll get into an uncomfortable pose, but you've got to hold it and you breathe through it and you get through it and you know, accomplish that and all that sort of stuff. It teaches you things that you can take away from the mat. And I love that so much, that I've even said over in the past, like one day I'm going to do my yoga teaching course and I'm going to be a full yogi. So, you know, I think it's okay for your health or your idea of health and wellness or whatever to change over the years and to develop. I think that's totally normal, but I feel like where I'm at now is definitely where I want to continue and where I hope my head is always at, you know.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So on that note, what's some of your favorite TV shows you've been binge watching? I've got a few, but no one likes my recommendations. So
what are your recommendations?
Look, I started watching this TV series called Yellowstone. So it's with Kevin Costner, and it's based on a ranch in Wyoming. Now, I tried recommending it to a friend of mine, and he was like, man, the episodes are 1.5 hours long for you know, each episode. I'm like, so they're long, but what else did I finish? Lucifer. I watched Lucifer on Netflix. Okay. See, I told you, no one really likes my recommendation.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, really interesting. Okay, there is no chance I'm watching any of those.
Well, I bet you, but there's going to be so many people that completely disagree with mine as well. So that's just the thing. That's just why we're so lucky to have things like Binge and Netflix and Foxtel and all these different options now, is because there's
100%.
so much variety. But no, for me, sorry, I can't not mention it. I finally watched Vampire Diaries from
Oh,
start to
no way.
finish.
Okay.
And I was a massive Twilight nerd
Yeah.
when Twilight series was out in high school. And I think I was so obsessed with Twilight that when Vampire Diaries was on, I just refused to watch it because I thought, no, it's not going to be anything like Twilight. Yeah, it's not going to be the same, and it's just going to disappoint me. So I never watched it. And then when we went into lockdown, I was like, well, hey, there it is on Netflix. Maybe I'll, finally watch it. And I became obsessed. Like, I literally couldn't sit and not watch like 3 episodes in a row. I became obsessed with Damon and the whole thing. And when it ended, I just got really sad. So that is something that I'm really happy that I watched back. I think it was just because it's so far from reality that I could just kind of switch off and
Sure. Were you team Edward or team Jacob?
I was always torn. But now when I look back now, I'm like, how was I ever team Edward? Because he's so creepy.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Yeah, that's so good. But we do, because we've just got so much time now. Like, if I'm going to be completely honest, I've run out of TV shows to watch. So I might give Vampire Diaries as well. But
oh my God. Well, you know what? I'm in the similar position, and I've finally also gone back and started season 1 of The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. So I'm really scraping the edges of trying to find something to watch, but I am actually sucked into that as well now. So you know what? I think I'm easy to please, I think.
For sure. I do recommend Brooklyn Nine-Nine. That is one of my favorites.
Okay.
But yeah, and I guess another thing that I found interesting that a lot of people might not know about you have a fear of the ocean. Is that still a fear?
Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, I grew up, my family never really went, I mean, we didn't never go to the beach. We went to the beach, but I was a river baby. So we always went to the Murray River whenever we had a holiday. And so I was always used to brown water that had a current, not, blue salty water that had waves. So that for me, when I used to take my friends to the river as a young little Aussie, they would be like, I don't want to get in there. I can't see my feet. And I was like, what are you talking about? This is like literally the worst thing in here is a yabby. Like, just jump in. So for me, the ocean was just a bit unknown. So like, I get freaked out when I think ocean, fish and everything is so beautiful. I really love everything about it. Aesthetically, I think it's really beautiful. But when I snorkel or whenever I've done anything like that on holidays, I have got literal like full anxiety the whole entire time. My heart is beating.
Sure.
It's like I just don't know what fish is bad and what fish is good, and like what coral could scratch me and poison me and what coral's fine. And I just find myself like literally trying to float to the very top, like as I'm snorkeling. And then what else is there? During a shoot once, I had to do this because that's the thing, right? I'm scared of the ocean, and yet I was a bikini model for 7 years. So exactly. The amount of times I've posed with a surfboard and I don't know how to surf. But anyway, I had to do this scene once for this video shoot I was doing, and I had to jump off a boat into like deep blue ocean water. Like I'm talking like dark blue ocean water. And I had to jump into that. Yes. And you just like, it's just that kind of deep blue. I'm doing all these hand gestures and I realize no one can see me. But it's like that kind of deep blue water where like a fish will just kind of appear. Like you can't see it coming because it's not that, it's so dark.
Anyway. It's at your foot.
Yeah. So I had to do a scene and I had to jump in there and do all these tumbles and things. And I ended up having like a panic attack, and I had to get back on the boat. They had to pull me back on the boat, and I was full crying, and I had a full panic attack in the water. And I've had a few other moments. I remember this one time I was sitting on Bondi Beach because I had a break. I finished a job early and my flight wasn't till that night. So I was like, you know what, it's a sunny day. I'm going to go sit in the beach. It's going to be great. But it was so hot, and I was by myself, and it was so hot. And I was like, I got to get in the water. I got to do this. But the reason why I was hesitant was it was such a windy, hot day. So the waves were huge, and I'm all good to get in the water if it's flat or like, you know, I go up to my knees, that's all good. But kind of like going into the waves, I still don't know how people read waves and know when to go and when not to go. And I found the confidence to give it a go.
Yeah.
And I got in and I got in and I timed it well, and I was in there and I was like, look at me, I'm up to my shoulders by myself. And I was smiling because, you know, there was so many people in the water and I was just enjoying life. And then I went to get out and I just fully got twisted in this big ass wave, tumbled. Like I'm pretty sure my bloody, you know, knickers came off, and then I just like walked out like almost in tears because I was so embarrassed. And I was just like, no, I just can't. So I don't know what it is. I don't know. And I just, you know what? I don't hate the ocean. I do love it. And, you know, take me to somewhere like the Maldives where the water is flat, or like literally any cove where the water is flat.
For kilometers or
exactly. Yeah. If it's clear and flat, I'm in there. I'm in there. And I know that sounds really weird because the Murray River is absolutely not clear, but I just know that there's nothing in there. So I think that's what it is. It's the unknown.
Yeah. And I say this because ironically, I also had a fear of the ocean. And all my friends know, like irrational fear of sharks. And just like a total fear. Like I had the same as you. I fell off my mates had a boat, and they had one of those donuts, and they all made this kind of like in joke between themselves that no matter what, they were going to throw me off the donut in extremely deep water out in like the channel.
Oh my God, I'm feeling sick.
Yeah. And I almost threw up in the water out of fear. Like that was going to be like my first response. Like it was fucking traumatic. But anyway, I'm getting uncomfortable speaking about it. But and the irony was I wanted to be a marine biologist as well. So it was it was a scenario where I ended up going diving in Byron Bay, and it comes back to what you said. The instructor was like, all right, cool. So if I make this sign right here, you know what that means. And I'm like, what? Is that an option? This is an option. He's like, there was a white pointer like around the area the last 4 days. And I'm like, a great white shark? Is that what you're telling me? Like, yeah. And then he was like, you know, look out for the stonefish. They're extremely poisonous. Look out for the blue-ringed octopus. They're extremely poisonous. And I'm like, so basically I'm just trying not to die underwater.
Yeah. Literally, if I was in the water and I was getting, like, I remember actually that takes me back to, this is a really young childhood memory. I reckon I was in grade 2. My family went to Fiji and we were snorkeling, and I was really nervous. Like I had a life jacket on and everything. And there was a pufferfish. And I remember, you know, pufferfish can be poisonous, I think. Yeah. Anyway, and I freaked out, and that's exactly what they said not to do. Like, don't freak out. But I freaked out, and I swam as fast as I could to this like floating buoy bed thing that was nearby, and I didn't get off it. I like did not go through the rest of the snorkel. I was sitting on it for an hour until my family came back because I was so petrified. So like, it's just always been there. I don't know. Yeah.
No, I totally get you. But and I guess so being a bikini model and being a model, what are your like some of your favorite shoots that you've ever done or experiences modeling?
Oh, that's really hard. There's been like that's really hard. I think I've been really lucky to shoot in some really incredible locations. I did a shoot in the Maldives with Billabong, which was beautiful. I've done, but even like all around Australia, I've got to travel and shoot in really beautiful places. I got to go to Cape Town when I was really young and shoot in South Africa, and that was awesome. Ever since I did that, I've just wanted to go back, but I haven't had the chance yet. I've got to shoot in like the south of France, which was amazing for this brand called James Smith, this shoe brand, and that was just so fun. It was such a laid back group of people. And
also, how does that come about though? So hang on. So south of France, you're obviously here. Is that a scenario where your agency's like, okay, get ready, it's paid for, you're being paid for it, see you later? Is that?
So certain because I'm still signed with some agents overseas as well. So there's a lot of different ways it works. Sometimes it's my overseas agents that pick up the job, and I say sometimes, it's literally been years since I did it. Yeah. And then I'd fly over to a certain location, and that's where it was shot. Sometimes it was through my Australian agency, and it was, you know, a client like Billabong, for example, who had booked a job and, you know, let's just say Tahiti or whatever, and that was all paid for, which is bloody incredible. James Smith is, it's actually owned by an Australian who lives in Bali. But the brand is kind of, I know, but the brand is kind of all over the world in retail stores all over the world. And they shoot a lot of their campaigns in Europe. And they knew that I was going to be in Europe. I was there for a friend's wedding. So they booked me off the back of that through my Australian agent. So sometimes it works that way as well. But yeah, I've had some really, really, really lucky experiences, and it's something that I do love about the job. You get to travel, you get to work with and meet some really incredibly talented people. But I think, you know, my favorite clients to continue to work with, funnily enough, are two that I'm still signed with to this day, which is Bras and Things and Adidas. You know, Adidas, whenever I do a shoot with them, I just feel super strong and empowered, and I love it. I always have fun. And then with Bras and Things, like, it's just incredible the way they make you feel on set. You know, often they work with a photographer called Stephen, who's a friend of mine now, and he's such a legend, and he's so good at making you feel like 110% on set. You know, his nickname for me is Muscles, and I just love that. Like, that's so cool. You know, it just makes me feel great on set, you know, because there is some photographers that you work with that, you know, call you weird nicknames, or, you know, say things that you're kind of like, oh, I would not say that. So it's nice when you know, you get to work with clients that just have an incredible team, and they all have an awesome energy, and that's kind of what, you know, that's the energy you feed off, and that's always
that collaboration environment, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's interesting because a few points that you brought up, even like Liz Cambridge, who's with Adidas.
She's a legend. I listened to your podcast with her.
Yeah, how good is she? She's unreal. And she's with Adidas as well. And she said the same thing.
Yeah.
Make her feel, you know, very comfortable. And I was speaking about the process of photography and photo shoots with Mike Christensen, who was the editor-in-chief of GQ. And he was saying, look, it doesn't matter who the talent is, because at the end of the day, it's a collaborator's environment. And you really do need a comfortable environment to get the best out of people. So absolutely, it makes sense what you're saying, and it's kind of not scarily ironic, but it's being the fashion industry and being in the modeling industry, to have three different people saying the same thing is probably a blueprint for anyone else that's listening that might be a brand. But yeah, but that's really cool. And I guess, so if at the moment with stage 4 restrictions, how are you getting by at home? Because you are married. So, so is it a scenario where it's a walk? I know you said you go for a walk a day, but is there anything like family wise? Obviously can't see fam. Like, is it a scenario where you're doing quite a few of these Zoom calls with a lot of different people?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my partner and I are both extremely fortunate that we are able to still work in this time. You know, he works day to day on our other brand Soda, and we're just fortunate that's an online business, and retail for us through the online sector hasn't really dropped, because, you know, people still like retail therapy.
Yeah, actually, spending more now online than ever before.
Exactly. I probably am too. And then obviously us with Kick, we've had so much going on in the background, working so hard. So we're just fortunate that we've had that to distract us and keep us busy. And obviously, you know, it's incredible that we've still been able to work, because there's so many people that are less fortunate. So just for us, it's kind of focusing on that and just staying grateful for that. There is definitely days where we just get, you know, down in the dumps and annoyed at each other, and, you know, everything's irritating everyone, but we just pull each other through. And the funny thing is we've got into this pattern now where almost most weeknights we kind of like separate, and he like goes and plays COD and I watch my show or whatever. Like we've scheduled like alone time, because I think when you're married, but like, even if you've just got a partner and you're just with them at all times, you know, usually you have your girls' night or your boys' night, or, you know, you go and see your family, or, you know, you leave the house for work. It's very different to just be within the walls of each other 24/7. But we're managing and we're getting through, and it's, we're all good. Just doing the little things that make us tick.
Yeah, for sure. And if your husband is as bad at Call of Duty as me,
He is, I promise you.
It is a far more stressful experience than it is
Yes.
because you end up going to bed frustrated, number one, and number two, the amount of hours. By the time you look at your clock or your phone, your phone. You're like, oh my God, I've been on this thing for like 3 hours and I haven't won once. And it's like, oh my.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, whatever keeps your mind off things, I suppose.
Yeah, 100%. And I guess, well, that's probably a good place to wrap this up is, as a business owner, what do you think, what would be some words of advice, or not even words of advice, but maybe some tokens you'd leave behind for young business owners at a time like this?
Well, I suppose just really try and, I hate the word pivot, but you know, kind of pivot when you can, and just try and learn through different points. I know, like, I've got friends who aren't necessarily getting to actually work at the moment, so they're then working on other things that are going to upskill them to then be able to kind of perform at be in a better position when all goes back to normal, hopefully soon. So, you know, it's kind of like, for us with Keep It Cleaner, we pivoted and we wanted to be there for the community and the outside community, and understood that a lot of people were, you know, no longer in going to their classes or their gyms anymore. So we did the virtual gym and had, you know, free sessions online for everyone to follow, and did the lives. And for us, that was our way of kind of like giving back, but also just, I don't know, just kind of, giving back to people who kind of needed it at that time. And little businesses have done things like that. You know, there's restaurants that now do takeaway that didn't do takeaway, like little things like that. Changing it up can really kind of help you get through. So be open to that and be open to change with that. But, you know, if you are unfortunately in a position where you can't pivot or change, just use that time to kind of grow and learn whatever you can to, I suppose, come out better on the other end. But for anyone kind of, you know, using this time who might not actually have a business yet and is thinking about going into business, I think my number one tip would be to make sure that you are 100% what's the word? Passionate. That's like, it's like almost 6 p.m. now. I'm like, my brain is starting to fry. Make sure you're passionate about what you're going into business for. You know, it can't just be something that you're doing because someone told you it's going to make you a lot of money, or it's, you know, a gap in the market. You know, sure, they're great things, but you have to be super passionate about it, because the amount of hurdles that Laura and I have had to jump over with Keep It Cleaner and get through, if we weren't passionate, and if we didn't like live and breathe Keep It Cleaner and what healthy living meant to us, we probably would have given up or, you know, failed a lot more, because we would have been half-assed. So it's super important to only kind of jump into business if you're 100%.
For sure. Thank you for coming on the OB podcast. It was a pleasure to have you. And
thank you.
Hopefully next time we can meet in person.
I know, it's like, because Laura and I, you know, through our own podcast, we have been doing so many of these Zoom things. It's the new normal, but I so miss human interaction with
100%. But so thank you, and I guess we'll speak to you soon.